Welcome to the Creative Island Podcast,
a show aimed at helping creative individuals transform their passion into profession.
Each episode will share powerful strategies, tips, and practical tools to empower you to create the income, the lifestyle, and the legacy you were designed for.
We are your hosts, Adam Bowman
and Jason Pepper.
Enjoy the show.
Okay, what are we talking about today? What's up, guys? Welcome back, Creative Island Podcast.
Geez, you're introing it today? Let's go. Do it.
Let's go.
I think I just did. No, we've been on another short hiatus because it's just kind of shows our character traits. I was at Formula One and Jason was having a kid. So, like, just the total divide of the generations there.
Bit of a difference there. Yeah, I had to take a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was doing degeneracy and you were bringing another life form into the world. So, doing God's work, brother.
It's life. It's life. But so that being said, we're back. We're excited to be back. Bit of a hiatus, but back on track.
Yeah, come swinging for the hills today. What do you want to talk about? We've been talking for like the past hour about just random shit, but like we got to get more concise.
Yeah, let's narrow it down. I think we can talk about business strategy today. I like to think of the business as a vehicle, which it is.
Yeah.
And I like to think of the business owner as the mechanic, right? And so every once in a while, I like to do what I like to call a multi-point inspection, right?
Okay.
Just check on things. How are things running? Are things falling behind? Are certain areas doing really well, other areas not doing really well? So we'll just have a conversation about strategy. You know,
I like that. I need a new strategy for my business.
Yeah, 100%.
So this should hit right.
We haven't talked in a while. Where are you at? You know. So we'll get into that today. And what strategy really means, it's just like direction, right?
Okay.
Where are we going? There's a million different ways we can go. Businesses all the time come to crossroads, or forks in the road or something. We have to make decisions, and strategy ahead of time helps us make those better decisions, right?
Totally.
And so we want to make sure we're on the right path all the time. Even though the road's changing all the time, we constantly have to be readjusting and making
totally.
sure that
100%,
are pointed in the right direction. So that being said,
let's dive into this because, like, I just need to know. I need to know the fruits, man.
Totally. Well, okay. So I'm spending a lot of time talking to small business owners lately, and the thing that I find is that they're kind of in two different categories.
Okay.
Category one is I'm depressed and I don't know where to go.
That's me.
But no, it's true. And so I'm depressed and I don't have a path. I don't have an option. I don't know what the F I'm doing.
Stuck in a groove that's just going in like a
and maybe they're
circular
making
motion.
money and they're doing stuff, but they're like, they're just not seeing it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one class. And then the other class is I'm anxious and I have anxiety like crazy because I see so many options that I don't know which one to pick.
Oh, that's also me.
And so we divide it into those. It's so funny.
Yeah,
and I like, depending on who I'm talking to, I can always find which side of the spectrum. It's not that black and white, but like say it's a spectrum and one end is the depressed, other end is anxiety. We want to try to find, where you are.
So you can assess it and then sort of move on and pick the strategy that
what works best.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that everybody always asks me, like especially in art businesses, because they're not typically, business savvy. They're super creative, which is great, and creativity works in business. But then, so the first thing they always ask me is like, well, what is it? Like, what's the silver bullet?
Yeah.
What am I missing? Which is hilarious, right?
Yeah. Fuck.
And the short answer for everybody listening, there's no silver bullet. It's kind of like 1,000 golden BBs.
Okay.
It's like a lot of tiny 1% improvements that make the difference.
Okay.
And everyone's always like, but I got to do that one next thing.
The one big like opus to get,
Totally. It's not that at all. It's like a ton of tiny little micro adjustments, micro improvements, little 1% things over enough things that you start to see the improvement. And so anyway, and that's what strategy is. Strategy just helps us hone in on those little 1% improvements.
Yeah.
And it helps us kind of make them quicker, avoid mistakes, and get
So you'd say like the 1% improvements are way more important than like the big, like crazy moves, like signing deals, or like for me, like a big feeling, like you say, like the 1% moving the chains is like you should focus on that more, say, than just trying to hit a home run every single time.
The home runs are made up of all the 1% things.
Ah, okay.
And so business strategy, so this is where we'll go with this talk today. Business strategy is more about getting addicted to the process, not the destination.
Okay.
So if the destination is the home run, the process is those little 1% things.
Yeah.
It's the tiny little micro adjustments that nobody really sees, the tiny little finesse, adjustments that you're making that make the home run a thing.
Yeah.
It's not that the home run is the thing. It's all the little behavioral adjustments along the way that make that hit.
That makes a lot more sense in like an artist business or like a very subjective business that relies heavily on like creativity and art, because it's all process all the time. And if you don't focus on that, then you get wrapped up in other things and the product becomes way shittier like every time pretty much.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's not just the product.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it's a lot of different things. And that's why I always say like running a business isn't for everyone. Like it's not for everyone, because it's a lot of things, and you have to think in a high resolution to see all those little adjustments and be aware of what you're working on and what things are gonna start to pop. Do we blow a light? Have you ever blown a light before? What the hell?
That's why the fuse has popped out. Sorry, folks.
All right.
We're back.
The
fuse popped out.
And so it took me years to understand this, but it's the most important thing that I think I've learned in recent times is just get obsessed with the process. Like get obsessed with the path, not the the journey, not the destination. And then like as cliche as that sounds, it's like, well, I want to have lots of money one day. Well, if you just focus on that, you'll never actually accumulate lots of money one day. You'll just be chasing a fantasy. It doesn't exist. But if you get addicted to the behavior that generates lots of money, it's a way more productive.
Okay.
You your time and energy.
So much sense.
It's just a matter of time till you get to the destination, right? And so, but then we can mitigate some of the time and expedite it, or slow it down based on strategy. So get addicted to the behavior. I mean, everyone's doing that now. Like you're doing the filmmaking, right?
Yeah.
And all that. Like you get addicted to like the process of doing it and the finesse in doing it, and all those little tiny improvements along the way.
Which is just difficult in thinking of business terms, because you just like it takes so much time to compound everything, because like you either focus on the business side of things or you focus on like the process, which I mean is like interchangeable, but the process of actually creating the art or whatever, and it all kind of gets like this gray area, this murky water of like, I don't have any money, but this product I made is amazing because I like went for it. So hopefully you can get me more ones, but then you're just kind of stuck with this like ebb and flow. Like one goes up, the other's down. Like the scale is never really balanced, I feel, until the foreseeable future. We have yet to find out for my business, but like,
it takes time. Like it takes time, and like I always, there's mentors, there's role models, there's ways you can expedite that, because that's a problem, right? Where you always have like not enough resources, but a ton of like you either have a ton of resources and time, a ton of resources and no time, or a ton of time and no resources.
Yeah.
And so there's constantly this dance you have to do. And so it's just, you have to be more resourceful with what you have. And the way you do that strategy, focus on the things. So focus on the little things, the little 1% improvements, do the ordinary things for an extraordinary period of time. Keep going, don't stop. And grow your standard too. Like that's the other thing.
Okay.
People don't realize that like how important setting a standard for the way you operate is on yourself, on your business, on your finances, on your relationships, on everything. And when you want to grow beyond a certain threshold, you have to like, your container has to grow.
Yeah.
Because you grow to your container, and if your container is only so big, you're only going to grow so big. And then you're going to start to hit that limit. But if you are constantly pushing the container bigger and bigger and bigger, and like hanging around people that are beyond you or above you or doing more than you or something.
Just like raising the bar.
Just raising the bar all the time. And unfortunately there's some element of that where you have to kind of cut
for sure
everybody below a certain threshold, and that's part of it too. Yeah. It's another reason why business isn't for everyone.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Because when you started, it's like this fun thing, but then few years in, you're like, oh, this is not that fun anymore. I got to actually figure it out and make it a business. And like,
totally.
I think strategy, like I don't have any strategy right now, to be honest. So, like, I mean, there's a little one, but I can't really articulate it because it's not on paper or anything. You know what I mean? It's just kind of in the ether, and I follow the same standards. But I think my container, to your anecdote or like analogy, my container is like a Tupperware sandwich dish, and it needs to be like pool size, you know what I mean? Like that's really realistically what you should be aiming for. It's to like, totally. But like not just go straight from Tupperware to pool, like Tupperware, then like casserole dish, then like refrigerator, you know what I mean? Like exponentially grow it.
Totally.
Because like moving too fast sometimes gets you in a rut. Like running before you can walk isn't necessarily the best thing either. But I mean, you learn a lot from your failures at the same time. So like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I don't think that there's losing and failing.
Yeah.
I think failing's good, and sometimes you have to try to grow too big and then kind of get
humbled a little
bit. That's part of it. It's part of the process. If you don't like that, your success, you're not going to like
success.
No,
100%. No, I love the failures, to be honest. Like I say, fall flat on your face every single day. You learn so much from it.
Totally. And so,
to an extent, you can't do it every day.
Yeah, no, you got to have some wins along the way too. Just to keep your
just to pump the tires a little bit.
But we can get so accustomed to like driving this business, this vehicle, mile by mile, and just forgetting about just like stopping for a second. Hey, is this thing running as efficient? Can we get more miles per gallon? Can we get more? You know what I mean? Instead of just trying to just keep pushing it 1 mile at a time and just keep going. So
Yeah, like is this a 4-cylinder or like a turbocharged Hemi? You know what I mean? Like
whatever it is, right? And it's your job as the mechanic, the CEO really of any business is just a mechanic who's looking at all the components and making sure that they're running as smoothly as possible, and that if there's something that can be improved, that they're working on improving it.
The analogy you could put that on F1, where there's like R&D, resource and development is like the number one thing, and if you're not doing that, your car stays at the back of the grid. But like the people who have the best performance, every race they have new improvements or whatever.
Totally.
And like if you think about it as your business, if you do one project and you don't improve on the next and you stay in the same spot, you're only going to be as good as your last project, which is something that I've tried to expand on now, where it's like if you do 2 similar projects, like different client, different scope, and like you try to like hit the same mark, you're probably going to miss it because you're just aiming below it in a sense.
Totally.
Or if you try to aim way above it and even just do a little bit better, it's still a W at the end of the day, right?
And that's it exactly. So I always like to do a little multi-point inspection every once in a while to see how things are going. Like, hey, is sales working as well as it? Like what's conversion rate? Like if we had a 1% improvement on conversion, what would that look like in revenue?
Okay.
If we had a 1% improvement on operations and we reduced expenses 1%, if we had a 1% improvement on like customer satisfaction and feedback and things got a little bit better, and it's all those tiny things that start building a big wake behind you. You can't ignore that. It's not one thing. It's never going to be one thing. Or if it is, let us know, DM me a line and just let me know what that silver bullet is.
And then I feel like if you change one thing, it's going to have like a ripple effect through other things, like
that's
positive
thing,
or
right?
negative. But like if you net more positives, then it's like in the back end, it's way better for you, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And like we face that all the time in our little business. We had someone that was a part of our organization for a long time and did a great job. But hey, if people change, people's interests change, and people have to move on. And sometimes you have to let people go to somewhere that's going to serve them better.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you realize the inefficiencies that were piling up, right? And so you have to kind of readjust. And same thing with your process. It's not just about people. It's like, the way that you're emailing customers, or the way that you're following up, or the way that your marketing is like, sometimes marketing's a funny thing. We need to market all the time. And I think it's a really important part of a business. But I see businesses all the time market a terrible product and they dump a ton of money into something and it's terrible. And you're reaching all the eyes, but it's not doing what it's supposed to because the product sucks. And so it's like, stop making all the improvements on the marketing, do 1 or 2% improvement on the product. Or whatever, or decrease the cost or do something in these tiny micro increments, you know.
Then how often do you do like the circle check of the business? Like, is it a feeling like you're like, oh, I need to reassess, or is it just like every month you sort of just like, what can I do to improve, or is it you don't really structure it that much?
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes it's financially driven, so you can see the KPIs, right? You can see, hey, like my expenses are like my suppliers. We have suppliers, so sometimes, you know, we pay on a monthly basis, right? And they kind of rack up a bit of a bill, and then it gets cleared at the end of the month. And so we have kind of little KPIs that tell me, hey, expenses are up this month, revenue's down, or productivity's down a little bit this month. What's going on? And so that sometimes can be an indicator, but usually once a quarter.
Once a quarter,
like once a month is maybe not enough of a snapshot to see where things are going. Sometimes it can be, depends what we're talking about. But
because I guess like when you make a change, you need to like have your baseline and then get a benchmark to see where it's at. So if you don't give it enough time, you can't really see if it's going to thrive or that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you have to be you have to just kind of, you know, it starts out you're shooting in the dark, right? Or if you have a mentor, it's really great. You don't shoot in the dark. You know, you're a little more accurate. And then you're constantly figuring it out from there. You know, you're making small incremental adjustments and you're watching the trajectory. You're making small incremental adjustments, you're watching the trajectory. So it's kind of this like imperfect thing.
Yeah. I like that. And then is there anything more to it, or is it just sort of like the 1% increases? Like what other strategies do you try to implement on top of that?
Well, just like the 1% improvement or more, like I say 1%. I mean, you can easily reduce expenses by 10% by doing certain things. And there's all kinds of little nuance like strategies which would be, you know, maybe a string of podcasts. But like, you know, where are your customers coming from? You know, you can optimize, like, are you optimizing your customers better? Like, can you get 1% more accurate on the type of people that want to buy your product?
Yeah.
Can you get 2% more accurate? Can you refine your product 1% more to like, it's just these tiny little adjustments.
Yeah. Okay.
The business is working. It's great. It's not the business. It's just, sometimes you have to just cater things a little bit more in one direction or another. And you'll all of a sudden see like a 1% improvement can translate to like a 10 or 15% in revenue. Like it can be substantially different depending on what it is. Like a 1% improvement in your sales process can translate to like 15 to 20% more revenue at the end of the year, which is like,
that's a lot.
It's a lot,
it
right?
It comes out of nowhere. Like one,
totally. But then you could say, then somebody could look in your business and go, man, like, how did you make that 20% jump? It's like, what was the silver bullet there? It was like, well, I don't know. It was like 4 or 5 things we did that we made tiny adjustments
like
on.
A chain reaction.
And it was like, it wasn't the result of one thing. It was actually like 10 different things, you know? It's like,
puts it in just perspective though. Cause you can't think, you got to think so many different ways. You got to think like macro and micro, like look at the big picture, but then assess like the smaller components that make up the whole. And then just like, like a mechanic would oil the parts that aren't working, swap them if they're not working. It's like such a great analogy. I love it.
Well, that's why the rule of 7 that we talked about on a few other podcasts.
Yes.
I think that would resonate so much with artists more than a lot of the other things they teach in marketing, because it's kind of an outdated rule, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think it's really applicable to creative arts and creative businesses, because it takes somebody, the rule of 7 basically states, it takes somebody 7 interactions with you, your brand, your products, before they become like a paying customer, a subscribing customer, right? Or someone that's about to make a purchasing decision. They might see your stuff on Instagram. They might see a TikTok. They might see an article. They might hear a friend. They might, whatever, 7 times before they're like, okay, I'm going to like make a decision about this. And so it's 7 times harder. And that means you have to do all those different things, and you're constantly doing a lot of things anyway to try to capture to check 7 boxes off on each person that you're trying to, you know, recruit to your
100%
brand or your, you know, business. So yeah, man, it's just the little things.
And is there like to end it off, is there like self-reflection questions you can ask, or you ask yourself when you're doing this sort of assessment? That's sort of just, because I think like it's sort of daunting to look at the scope of an entire business and be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, when you have no idea what you're looking at. Like, is there questions that get you started in like, oh, am I hitting my numbers this month, or am I hitting my goals, or is like, why is this lack? Like, is there, like, what sort of questions are you asking yourself?
I questions are awesome. I don't have a list of them in front of me, but I like things like, hey, is this processor system working? Is this the best processor system for this whatever particular lane? Or like any question that challenges what you have. You have to constantly challenge the things that you think are so.
I love that.
And break that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's a really scientific process in the sense that you're constantly stress testing everything that's holding up your business all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you put a foundational pillar in the business, like in your sales process, you have to constantly hit that thing with a sledgehammer, like metaphorically, all the time. You have to constantly check if it is holding it as well as it could, you know, or can we improve it? Can we make it a little better? You know, can we add that little bit more? And so there's a ton of different questions you could ask in different processes, but I think the big takeaway is just like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's not all bad.
Yeah.
Just try to make little 1% improvements on stuff and get feedback. Like people will tell you what's wrong or what's working or not working.
Yeah.
And then use that as your compass to say, okay, well, this is fine. Our sales process needs to be improved a little bit.
Yeah.
Or like our customer service sucks. But like you tighten up your customer service aspect and your retention improves. So you get more revenue and you're like, whoa, that customer came back twice in 1 year instead of only once.
Yeah.
That's a big difference in your revenue, right?
Okay. It's almost like calculated risk in a sense, because you're like trying to, and like each time it's gamble technically, but it's very like,
it's low risk because it's small improvements. You're not like,
but at the same time, like you're taking so much risk that like in the end it's working because there's smaller quantities of risk in terms of like I'm like, you know, instead of totally rebranding your business or something like that to cater, but like these smaller risks that kind of add up, and some fail, but some, if you net the positive, then you're fucking chilling.
That's what it's all about. And like it's not a question, but I have a little chart, and I got it from Alex Ramosi. You know, I reference him all the time because he's one of my favorite guys right now.
Yeah.
You know, in the business development space, and he's just spitting the goods. Like there's no fluff, there's no facades, and he's got 8 ways to generate leads, right? And he's like, you can only do 4 on your own, and other people can do 4 for you. So there's only 8 ways in total.
Yeah.
And as long as and actually here, I'll read them off for you guys.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen.
For those that don't know, Adam will put it up on the screen. There's only 8 ways to generate leads in your business. Okay. And leads are potential customers that are going to pay you. And so you spend a lot of energy there. First of all, 1% improvements in lead generation translate to big dollars in the business. So it's a good place to hang out. And there's the 4 things you can do is you can cold call. And cold call is different for everybody. Cold call can be going to a networking event, meeting people you don't know. It's just like a cold relationship.
You call cold calling something different, right? I feel like you said
I say action calling.
Action call. I like action call. Cold call just sounds like you're gonna get shit on every time you pick up the phone.
It sounds like you're calling the morgue or something. Right?
It's not conducive to like I don't know, productivity.
No, and a lot of people don't like doing it, but once I go through these, you'll see that you shouldn't have to do it forever. Cold calling should be something that you do for a period, and then hopefully you can transition. But there's cold calling, warm calling, which is you're calling past customers that already know you. You kind of already got a reputation with them. They know what you're looking for.
Letting them know about a new thing that you offer, or
totally. Just a warm call, or reach out. Hey, how's it going? Hey, that thing I did for you 6 months ago, how's that working out?
Yeah,
you cool. Like anything I need to know about going forward. Like sometimes an innocent call like that can do a lot of good. Media and content, so AKA social media, or lastly, paid ads.
Yeah.
Pay-per-click, Google ads, like what, just paid ads, pick the platform, pick the dollar amount.
You can pick the nuances if you want.
And if you're trying to generate leads or potential new customers for tickets, for merch, for album sales, for streams, for whatever you're trying to do, to fill venues, these are the 4 things you can do on your own.
Yeah.
Then there are 4 things other people can do for you, which hopefully as a result of your cold calls, warm calls, social media, and paid ads, some of those leads and customers will convert to the people that generate leads for you, which are our referrals, which are your, the people that send customers to you. Sometimes there's an incentive in place or not. Referral programs are awesome. We love them in our businesses. Affiliates, so maybe organizations that share your customer base that you can be, so you kind of rub shoulders with the right people. Maybe there's a rev share or some other kind of agreement that incentivizes them to send you customers.
Yeah.
Employees are great. I mean, if you don't have a lot of employees in your business, it's fine. But if you do, I have deals in my business right now where people have extra opportunity to earn if they bring deals. Like if you bring something to me that we can convert into revenue, you deserve a piece of that.
Yeah.
It's a great deal.
Yeah.
And then other agencies, you can find other agencies working for you as well.
Also, the good one about the last you just said is like you just create a pool of people that are just working for you and they don't even realize it because they're chasing like the 10% or whatever the cut they get. But at the same time, they're bringing so much business to you and you're like, good job. Like, yeah, like it's pretty fire.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And that's the key. Like in the beginning, I was cold calling. I used to knock on doors. Like that was my cold calling.
Well, you did that this year, didn't you?
Yeah,
like,
I did it earlier this year for sure. Sometimes you got to just go and revive things. Like that's, knocking on doors is awesome. Introducing yourself to new people.
Well, I also feel like the whole knocking on doors thing, like canvassing, it's not really canvassing because you're not like running for mayor or whatever, but it's like a similar thing. It's like making your presence in the neighborhood. But like there's a scene in Peaky Blinders. You ever watch Peaky Blinders?
No.
It's like it's like the Depression era in like Britain, and like it's like Thomas Shelby's this dude, but like later on in the seasons he gets pretty successful in like gambling and like drug smuggling, whatever. And he's like, and he has a bunch of horses. In this one scene, he's like shoveling shit. And the one dude whose like job it is, he's like, why are you doing this? He's just like, because I need to know what it feels like to be like on the bottom, just so I know what it means and what I'm working for, sort of thing. And when you do the things I used to do when your business started, sometimes you revisit them and just jumpstarts you back into action.
Totally.
Like the similar sort of psychology behind it.
And I don't want to smash cold calling because I think everybody gives it a bad rap. I love it. Yeah. It's literally given me the fruits of my business to this day. And it's amazing. But it's tedious and it's time consuming and it's not as effective as like some of the other methods, Like
it's not as like glamorous.
No, it's not glamorous.
But like that, who cares?
But
like,
there's lots of stuff in business that isn't glamorous.
But then there's like you look at Wolf of Wall Street, like the scene where he's doing the penny stocks. He does cold calls to sell people like shitty insurance clauses or whatever. And you just hear him riffing and you're like, fuck, like I got to figure that out. But if you don't do it, you're never going to figure out how to speak to anyone or like get the mojo and sell anything,
That's it. And like, just for the record, everybody who's listening going, man, cold calls, sales, like what the hell? Nobody's born with some inexplicable ability to sell.
It's Ben Shapiro. No,
you're conditioned over time.
Yeah.
And totally. So nobody's got this downloaded on their hard drive when they're born. It's something you condition, and I had to be conditioned, and look
at Gary Vee. Like he was conditioned 10 years working at his parents' winery. Like if he didn't have those 10 years of selling expensive wine to broke people, he would never have learned how to be the Gary Vee he is today.
That's it. It's all conditioning. So much of like who we are today is like conditioning we had, things we don't even realize that were conditioning us in the past. Like there's that old theory of like all the Italian Renaissance painters. There was that short window of time where it was a hotbed for all these crazy painters that are some of the most famous painters to this day. And then but
like not as big,
anything close to that since. And like they attribute it to all this weird cultural stuff that they would have done before they became painters. Like if you were making pasta in the kitchen, like with your grandmother, and you were developing crazy dexterity in your fingers.
Just meticulous.
And then you pick up a paintbrush and all that dexterity's, all that muscle memory's just been conditioned. Of course you're going to hold the pen or paintbrush way smoother. Your lines are going to be swifter. You're going to have way more control over so sales is no different. Talking to people is no different. Public speaking, whatever that is, it's just conditioning, start, and just don't stop.
Yeah, and to that analogy, there's like one half of that is like the dexterity and the finesse, but the other half is like putting yourself in that community of people who are going to be able to pay 10 grand for a portrait and prodding that before it even becomes an opportunity. So then when like they both align, you're just optimized and you're ready to go and paint fucking the Mona Lisa and like, you know what I mean? Like,
totally. And so this was just a small snapshot into one lane of the business. There's lots of mechanisms and lanes in the business, but 1% improvements, it's the little things. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Your business is fine. Just focus on the little improvements. Improve the marketing, but improve the product too, improve the process, improve the stage presence, improve how you interact with customers after, improve all the little 1% things become the reason you get further than everybody else.
Fucking man. That was another episode of the Creative Island podcast. If you like this episode, please like, share, and comment. Right now, we are trending in Portugal for whoever knows why.
Shout out to
Is it Portugal? It's Portugal, right? Yeah. So let's run up these Canadian numbers because I feel like there's no way there's more people in Portugal watching than in Toronto or Canada. But yeah, if you liked it, leave us a comment why, or leave us a comment why you didn't like it, and we'll improve and get better every day. Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And if you'd like to be notified of more episodes, please be sure to follow the Creative Island podcast now.
Want access to exclusive content, our community newsletter, live events, and so much more? Visit creativeisland.online today to join the Creative Island community.
See you at the top.